Alright, for the people who think the videos are too long, it's a one movie in this one. This video is probably going to be no more than 15 minutes, so...
Yeah, you get a nice short video here.
But, releasing it with the verses seemed like the proper thing to do, so...
Yeah. So pretty much just blowing the spot that the verses for tomorrow is, Shaun of the Dead versus Hot Fuzz.
Anybody with any common sense could figure it out.
31 Flavours isn't a bad cryptic comment, though. I didn't think so.
It just all seems to fit together too much.
It really does.
Alright, so, obviously we're going to, I was originally going to put this on the regular video on Friday, but fuck it.
Friday's changed a lot. I mean, now we've got, it's going to be Blackfish, the Bling Ring.
That's kind of, it's funny, I didn't mean to say that just now, but, without giving anything away, I will say that, fuck it is a lot of people's favorite line in this movie.
I agree with that.
In its context.
I totally agree with that. Very Mean Gene.
Obviously we're talking about The World's End, which is the last movie in the, whatever you want to call it, the Cornetto Trilogy or the Blood Ice Cream Trilogy.
3 Flavours Cornetto Trilogy and the Blood and Ice Cream Trilogy.
And obviously they wanted to cover a different genre. With, obviously, comedy most front and center, but Shaun was going to be horror, Hot Fuzz was going to be action, and this was going to be sci-fi.
Yep.
I don't know that I call this full-on sci-fi, but it's probably as close to sci-fi as they could get.
I would say so.
It's got qualities of both. It's got the the big, shit, how do I say this?
Edgar Wright calls it social science fiction.
That works.
That's actually the wording he used.
They kind of bring back elements of Shaun and Hot Fuzz, but
yeah.
With in Shaun they fight off zombies. There's something they have to fight off in this as well, and it's kind of got the creepy town with the underlying sinister feel from Hot Fuzz. Even similar scenes where they're walking through the town and people kind of just watch them go by. Those are like right out of Hot Fuzz, obviously. I guess we'll start with the 5 guys. The group is Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Paddy Considine, Eddie Morrison, and Martin Freeman. And they, I hate this part because you all know this shit. It's just for review's sake I have to say the plot. Obviously, they tried this Golden Mile where they were going to 12 pubs in one night.
Yep.
And they, in very Cornetto Trilogy fashion, you might realize some foreshadowing that lies in the telling of this opening.
Of course.
Like, the guy that grows up to be Martin Freeman goes out of commission first, which is him projectile vomiting on the sidewalk, and they leave him there.
Yeah.
And then the guy that grows up to be Eddie Morrison goes out of commission, is what they say. And that's the 3 of them, but then they eventually don't make it. They kind of get sidetracked. So then we find out that the story is being told by Simon Pegg, and I guess it's AA or rehab. Or
that's the first thing that popped in my mind. It has to be AA.
And then he realizes that he hasn't grown up, despite the fact that he's like pushing 40. Maybe he's past 40. I don't know how old Simon Pegg is. Regardless, everybody else has grown up and moved on and either gotten married or gotten a steady job and all that.
He still dresses like he did when he was a teenager.
And he wants to get them back together, and he lies by saying that his mom died.
Yep.
And we don't really know that right away, but just in his delivery, you can pretty much tell he's lying from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just the way his character. I read somewhere that Christy Lemire, who obviously used to work for Roger Ebert, and I don't know what she does. I don't know what she's with exactly, but she's a fairly popular critic. And she said I read something about her saying that she would personally start the Simon Pegg Oscar campaign. He is great in this movie.
He is. I agree.
And he leads it really well. And he has a lot of different, like, we learn different things about his character that may or may not be unexpected.
Yeah.
And he has to go through a lot of emotions and changes while also remaining the same.
Correct.
And it's kind of a complex character, actually.
Most definitely.
While also being hilarious. Apparently
yeah.
his performance is really divisive because a lot of people think his performance is obnoxious. So you have that crowd and you have the people who think he's Oscar-worthy. So it's interesting to see what camp you fall into when you watch it for yourself.
Gary as a character is supposed to be obnoxious, though.
Yeah. And a man-child, basically.
Exactly.
And Nick Frost is really great too, as always.
Of course.
Where he's the one that he's off drinking because of this accident that we keep hearing about, but nobody goes into detail about.
Yep.
And you get those no pun intended. You get the shots of him saying they're all ordering beers, and he says, "Actually, make that 4 beers and a tap water." And you have the very Edgar Wright frenetic directed shots of them getting 4 beers, and then just the light sound of water squirting into a cup.
4 pours and then the soda gun. It was great, and he was like, "What?"
So then we go into there's familiar faces everywhere from the Cornetto trilogy, like what is his name? The guy that played Filch in the Potter movies. He's like he's like the one guy in town that they can trust and he knows what's going on. He was the guy that was like incomprehensible that owned the barn in Oz.
Oh yeah.
He's the guy responsible for the Red Wedding to those fucking Game of Thrones freaks. Sorry. I didn't mean to just insult you like that, but you know, people love Game of Thrones.
Yeah, they do.
There's Rafe Spall and the woman that was in Sightseers that I believe played Simon Skinner's secretary. And there are a couple that's looking at a house that I think Martin Freeman was the realtor.
Yeah,
the 5 of them.
Yeah, definitely.
He's showing a couple of houses, and they're the couple. You have Steve Orm, I think was his name. I'm not positive on that. He was the guy that was in Sightseers. He's the motorcycle cop.
David Bradley is Filch.
Yeah, that's it.
Took me a minute to find it, sorry.
And in an interesting... I had initially read that it was just it was an uncredited cameo, but apparently it's a full credited part because he's in the credits at the end. Mm-hmm. We have to top Timothy Dalton being in Hot Fuzz with Pierce Brosnan being in this. He is their teacher from when they were in school that they discover in one of the pubs.
Yep.
And we get more of him as the movie progresses. Then there's also Rosamund Pike, who is new to these. Who's your basically your go-to British actress, more or less.
Yeah.
And she's fine. She's always fine. In more ways than one. Yeah, she's fine. And of course we get the voice of Bill Nye, eventually. I won't say where, but he's in there. Mm-hmm. While I was watching this, I got the sense that there was... While it had a lot of the same feel and a lot of the same stuff, something about it felt different, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and I still can't put my finger on it. Something about the humor seemed a little different.
It seemed more mainstream.
It seemed a little more broad, yeah.
It felt like more people would be laughing in the theater that were laughing than would have been before.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all.
And it's not, there wasn't, unless it was so subtle I missed it, which is possible because it was my first time seeing it, and I've seen the others multiple times. It didn't seem to have, like, the subtle flow that the other movies did. Everything seemed to pretty much be out there.
Yeah.
As
Definitely.
far as the comedy. And a lot of people were talking about, like, Eddie Morrison and Paddy Considine are these serious actors. Like, Eddie Morrison's known for Happy-Go-Lucky and his part on Ray Donovan, and among other things. He's in the Sherlock Holmes movies, but it's not, I don't know if you call that serious or anything. And Paddy Considine was in, like, In America, and there's another one. He wrote and directed Tyrannosaur, I think. Mm-hmm. Which was a really serious movie. And Submarine.
I like that movie.
That dumbass movie.
Hey, now.
Anyway, it's really interesting to see them take on these quite comedic parts.
True.
Like the, I know it's more immature, but the particular scene where they're in the bar, and he's trying to convince them that he hasn't. Gary's trying to convince them that he can be trusted, and they're doing like the show your scars thing, like Jaws or something. And then he says Gary King is carved behind the bar.
Yep.
Patty Considine says, no, it hasn't. It says Gay King, and of course the R has been scratched out. And Eddie Morrison just keeps laughing, and then it's progressed. It's like a whole other scene.
Yep.
And we've moved on to something totally different. And Eddie Morrison's laughing, and we're wondering what's wrong with him. And then he just goes, "Gay King." That's great. So yeah, it's definitely, the humor has definitely felt different. But I will say another thing, and I don't know if this is a criticism or something good about it.
Compliment?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
There were a lot of people in there.
Yes.
Because, obviously, it was only on, 1,400 screens, so you had to scramble to whatever theater had it. And so,
correct.
This theater we were in, it was a pretty big theater, so we were alright, but there was still a lot of people in there.
About 50 or 60 people in there.
It's definitely a good movie to see with a crowd.
Yes.
Like, it's one of those moments where when you watch movies at home and you're by yourself and you don't necessarily laugh out loud, unless it's really, really goddamn funny. There were moments where I was laughing, but I could sense, if I were at home watching it by myself, I probably wouldn't have been laughing out loud. But it really, I don't know what it is.
You're a product of your environment.
Yeah. I think most people work that way, where
I agree.
If you're in a room that's laughing at something, it generally makes it easier for you to also.
It's the Brick Tamlin excuse. I don't know why we're laughing.
Yeah, regardless, if you can see it with a crowd, which in the first weekend you probably did.
Yeah.
Speak past tense. Yeah. There was an interesting, since you have a lot of wrestling on the channel, I guess we'll bring up that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost did an interview, and they were talking about how it's never referenced in the movie, but a little backstory they kind of gave the characters that's never spoken of is that they love WWE.
Yes.
So, when they're initially fighting, I don't know if I should say what it is or not. You can see in the trailer, but apparently some people still are a bit surprised by it. When they fight in the movie, they're basically using wrestling moves.
Yes.
Particularly that one scene.
Oh, yeah.
And then there is the fence joke, as always, which I kind of don't... It kind of sucks, because this fence joke is a great idea, because it's this recurring joke that comes back in every movie. There's a lot of recurring jokes that come back in every movie, but specifically the fence joke. The scene in Shaun of the Dead where he goes to jump the fence and that portion of it falls over. And then the joke in Hot Fuzz where he jumps over all of them and then Danny just smashes through it. And then in this one he tries and the entire fence falls down. The problem with this running joke is that, if I remember correctly, all three movies, like even Shaun, like I remember the TV spots in the trailers for Shaun back in the day, 10 years ago. All the trailers and commercials and TV spots for all three movies blow the fence joke in them.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's like, it kind of takes away from the charm of them. That you always know the fence joke when it's coming. I kind of wish they had started, like... I suppose it's not too much of a payoff in The World's End, because it's pretty much just an amped up version of what happened to it in Shaun. But there's not really much you can... There's not many things you can do to a fence joke.
Well,
to give them the credit.
To go back, because I kind of glossed over it because you mentioned it, and it's kind of like we are all about wrestling here on Pop one way or another, even the way we talk most of the time. But the thing about it is I got to give it up, like, huge props to Nick Frost. Number one, there is a wrestler in Lucha Libre. His name is Atlantis, and the reverse. I gotta remember exactly what the word is. like a reverse torture rack, like this, like the spin, and I'm just trying to dumb it down for people that don't know what I'm talking about. It's called a Lantita, is basically what it is. And what he does, he picks him up from the Lantita and he right into the Bane style backbreaker, and then he drops the elbow, and then of course things happen. I won't go into that, but
yeah, Peg mentioned the elbow drop in the interview I was talking about.
not the greatest elbow drop, but the Lantita just gives it up right there.
Nick Frost is a big dude, though. I think it's pretty hard to drop an elbow when you're a big fella, we'll say.
Abdullah the Butcher was over 400 pounds, and his finisher was an elbow drop off the ropes. Dusty Rhodes used an elbow drop off the ropes. So yeah, I can completely just eliminate that idea right there.
Lastly, I'd like to say that this kind of another thing that kind of fits into these movies. Well, obviously they're different and they're branching out, but
yeah.
Another movie that's kind of lumped into this trilogy is Attack the Block.
Really?
Which was Joe Cornish's movie. That's basically those they're aliens that they look like weird gorillas that have like glow in the dark teeth. It was one of the best movies of 2011, and Nick Frost is in it. And Joe Cornish is involved with. He had like really small parts in Shaun and Hot Fuzz. Mm-hmm. And I did get an Attack the Block vibe from this. It almost like it was kind of a bit of a callback to that as well. I don't know how Cornish is involved with them exactly, like how he knows them specifically, but he clearly is involved because Edgar Wright had a lot to do with Attack the Block also. I think.
Really?
He got it off the ground. I think he's got the executive producer credit. I could be wrong, but
I'm looking at Joe Cornish's steez right now. I'm trying to see how he knows Edgar Wright.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about this movie. It definitely rises to the occasion. Yes. That is the other two movies. Nothing has still, come to the heights of Hot Fuzz, but I'd say I like it better than Shaun, probably.
Yeah, but I would say that now.
People probably think I hate Shaun, but I really don't. It's really a well constructed, well done, brilliant, thing.
But it's that thing about you've watched Hot Fuzz over and over again. It's so like drilled into your mind that it's kind of hard to top it.
I've only seen Shaun like 3 times.
Yeah. Including tonight.
Maybe it'll grow on me the more I see it. But yeah, it's consistently hilarious.
Yes.
With, but it really combines that, it's more slapsticky than the other two, and the comedy is more broad, but still, I didn't feel that brought it down or anything. A lot of people, it's pretty popular now to say this is the worst of the trilogy, but it's still okay. I actually think it's really good, and I think it's right up there with them. Like I said, I think Hot Fuzz kind of rises above them.
Yep.
Regardless, they're all here in the same level of this brilliance, and it's kind of disappointing to know that it's
over.
The trilogy's complete now, but it came to a very satisfying conclusion. I'm wondering what people might think of the ending, because it's interesting and doesn't quite go in a direction you might be expecting.
No, it doesn't.
But it's what they do with it is interesting, and the appearance of the Cornetto rapper is interestingly placed.
Like it is in all the 3.
So that's pretty much it for this.
Alright, so Friday. Let's talk Friday, since we're a couple days away from that. So Friday, our video will be...
Getaway.
Yep.
The Bling Ring.
Yep.
Sharknado.
Yes.
And Blackfish.
So Sharknado and Blackfish in the same video. with it's funny because you have Sharknado and Blackfish. You see the correlation there. And then you've got the Bling Ring and Getaway. Of course, Getaway is Selena Gomez, and the Bling Ring has been compared to Spring Breakers, who was in. So there you go. Wrap your head around that as AJ's head explodes. So yes,